So let us look at the text, and then we will take the first verse. Mano nivrittiv paramopashantihi sa tirthavarya manikarnika cha jnanapravaha vimaladi-ganga sa kashikaham nijabodharupa. Sakashikaham nijabodharupa. So it beautiful, very very beautiful verses, and they talk about, in short, they talk about how the desire to even go for a pilgrimage is born out of a sense of incompleteness centered on the self, on the I. And this incompleteness, is because of Atma Ajnanam. We have seen that in detail. And because of this Atma Ajnanam, there is a separation from oneself, and notions about oneself which one has internalized are not in keeping with the message or the vision of the Upanishads, which which say that one is free of all desires, one is free of all wants. And so this is, there is some kind of a, there is some kind of a separation from that vision, and it's a very costly separation from the vision, because it leads to some kind of wanderlust and going here, going there, because as long as one feels that one is deprived of something, that I am a desirer and my identity is primarily that of a desirer, then what happens, so the objects of desire, whatever they may be, will always be away from oneself. In fact, what the Upanishads say is that the desire is to understand that self, is to be with that self. Everything Atmanastu Kamaya Sarvam Priyam Bhavet. We saw that in Yagyavalkya's teaching, just a couple of weeks ago. And so, so this is, this is for not even 1 week ago. We saw that in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. So therefore, this is what we have to look at. We have to see that this whole situation is from a sense of separation. Even though the separation may feel like it's between myself and the object of desire, whether the objects of desire are the objects in the Jagat or whether it is Bhagavan itself, doesn't matter. There is a big ocean spanning myself and the objects of desire. Actually, that the oceanic separation, that ocean of separation is actually a notion of separation. This is what we have to see. And so and so the whole thing about Kashi, like I said, Kashi is subject to a lot of wrong, some kind of myths. And the first myth is that one gets moksha if you die there, and the second myth, is that if you are, you can, you can get rid of all your papas. These are the two primary myths that are built up around just a visit to Kashi. So now the author, some Shankaracharya, or somebody who wrote in the name of Adi Shankara, the author wants to take us on a little internal trip to the Kashi that lives within. So he is playing with the words. Yesterday I told you the root verb is chakasra deeptau, in the sense of lighting up. That which lights up is kashaha asya asti iti kashi, kashin. So the one, the one that this there is a suffix ini, so this is what is there. So the one that has, the one that has light. And in fact we have to change it, because a little bit here, because the possessor of light here is this is a kind of a, what is that, aupachariki, this aupacharika pratyaya, because the thing is, the the Atma is not the possessor of light. The Atma to which the city of Kashi is being compared is not the possessor of light. If I am the possessor of light, it can be stolen away from me, correct? It can be taken away. But here the Atma is all light. So the sense, even though it is using a belonging pratyaya, the suffix, it is just for the sake of just for the sake of grammar. That is what the whole thing is. So Kashi here means the one who is all light, the possessor of that light, meaning the possessor of all light, the one who is all light. And so this is the Kashi. And so here we are doing an internal tour of Kashi for all those who are who have COVID fatigue, quarantine fatigue. Come along, come one, come all. Let us go on a little tour of inner Kashi of the shining self. The inner Kashi of the shining self, is up for a pilgrimage. It is ripe for ripe for a visitation. And so we are going to go within together. And so what does this Kashi look like? So people say that as soon as you enter Kashi, Varanasi, then what happens is that your senses quieten down, the mind quietens down, because you are right next to the Ganga. And the scenery is beautiful, and you are and half the town is orange, because only the people, a lot of sadhus are there and everything, and people of serious pursuits. They go for what is that, they go for their studies, or they go to lead a life of tapas and teaching, etc., etc. Lots of ashrams are there. And so and naturally when you go, and Ganga Arati is being sung and done every evening in every little area which overlooks the river, and every little river bank piece has devotees clanging the big cymbals, and then big huge aratis this big, that will be there with several tiers of oil lamps. It's a sight to see. And then and in the same Ganga they will dip a big towel, and then they will wrap the towel around their hands, and then two people sometimes have to hold, and they do arati to the Ganga. It's a sight to see. So naturally, if you go to such a place, and then there is a little forest there, or so many things, you can just be quiet there. Naturally, if you go to such a place of learning, such an ancient place where the Ganga, which is considered to be an epitome of knowledge, that is why she is coming through the locks of Lord Shiva. And so naturally, if you go to such a place, what happens? You immediately feel quiet. You feel happy, you feel quiet. And so now, so that is the outer Kashi that you can't go because of COVID, etc., etc., and because you're what is that, you're a Vedantin wannabe. If you're not already a Vedantin, you're a Vedantin wannabe. So then the tour of the internal Kashi. So then where is the peace here? Outer Kashi, you can get the peace from just seeing other people just sitting on the banks and doing tapas, and then the Ganga Arati, even with all the clanging of the cymbals, there is a certain kind of a harmony and peace. And where is this peace? In the inner Kashi? Mano Nivrittihi. Mano Nivrittihi. Nivrittihi means the retreat. Like we have seen this word. Where have we seen this word? Kathopanishad. Pravrittihi, approach. Nivrittihi, return. So the return of the mind, the coming back of the mind to itself, the sinking of the mind to the heart, as is said in Ayurveda. The Ayurvedic Vaidya of the ancient kind, not the one who went to some Ayurvedic college and got the degree. No, somebody who studied at the feet of the grandparents and practiced and knows how to read the pulse, which is a kind of a endangered art. So that Vaidya will say, your mind needs to sink into the heart. Not the real heart, the proverbial heart, meaning there is not a disconnect between the mind and the heart. Everything is coming together, and the mind retreats, withdraws, comes back, falls back onto itself, rather than is restlessly searching for something all the time, like a predator. Usually the mind has a kind of a predatory instinct, and the predatory instinct is, what shall I catch, what shall I name, what shall I have, what shall I put in which box, and who shall I trouble, how shall I do this, where shall I go now, all these nonsensical mind. It's a predator, it's a hunter. And if nothing, it's an experience hunter. He keeps on wanting to hunt and collect and gather experiences. And even after coming to the spiritual field, it is spiritual kshetra, sitting in front of the greatest teacher of Vedanta, Pujya Swamiji. People would ask how to experience Atma. Ayo, you are experiencing Atma. And one time Pujya Swamiji said, you're also making me painfully experience the Atma when you are asking these questions, such questions, after studying for so long. So meaning what? That kind of a separation, because the mind is just wanting to catch, this catch, kill, eat mentality. Catch, conquer, kill. This is the this is the mentality. That's why it's a predator. That's what the predator does. It sneaks up onto the prey, catches it, kills it. And sometimes they just kill for sport, like tigers. They're not very hungry, they just want an appetizer, but they'll kill a whole rhino. And why did you do that? It was fun. That's all it is. My mother taught me always to play with my food. They will say that. This is what the whole thing is. And so like this, the mind is like a predator. It's like a big cat that is just watching for anything that comes, that can be classified, tucked away, conquered, caught, killed, and named. Named and maimed. So now here, that kind of a mind is not Kashi, is not the piece of Kashi. Maybe it is few pieces of Kashi, but it's not the piece of Kashi. The piece of that is gained, that we are told, by visiting Kashi is what? Is very much in the in a mind that has retreated. What has it retreated from, you may ask? It has retreated from this catch and kill mentality. Usually in Vedanta, what is that, in Vedanta text, they'll say the mind has withdrawn from the sense objects, like the Bhagavad Gita often uses this analogy, yada samharate chayam kurmongani va sarvashah. Samharate, withdraws. Yada, when the person of knowledge is being described here in the second chapter, the person of knowledge withdraws. Samharate, ayam, what? Kurmongani, kurmongani iva. Kurmongani iva samharate. And so the mind, the person of knowledge at will is able to disconnect the obsession with the objects and let the mind fall back upon just reveling in the subject. This is for the person of knowledge. But a jnani wannabe cannot do that, because the jnani wannabe is not able to understand this fully, is in the process of understanding it. So the retreat here is not exactly, one way to describe it is, disconnect from the obsession with objects. One can say that. But that is easier said than done. Objects are everywhere. They are surrounding you. You cannot run away from the objects. You run after them, they are there. And most of the objects are where? In the mind itself. They are not even outside the mind. Oh, I want a chocolate cake. Oh, I want this. I want a big job. I want this. I want that. All that is in my head itself. The whole Jagat lives here. So how are you going to get away? How are you going to disconnect? So a deeper meaning in a more practical sense of this quote unquote, what is that, detangling the mind from objects that one is always constantly coming to know and seeing. The detangling the mind involves a certain retreat. And what is that retreat? Retreat not from the objects per se, because the objects will be there. In fact, the objects are harmless. It's all about you, the subject. So the retreat here, mano nivrittihi, is what is from that catch, kill, eat mentality. From that predatory mentality, the mind withdraws. That's where the training has to be done. Because otherwise it's some kind of a, you can force the mind to just not go after this, what are they called, sense objects. Okay, I won't go after sense object number 1, sense object number 2, sense object number 3, and then one becomes a pressure cooker because one is avoiding. This is unhealthy in a way, because it's a form of a forced dissociation. And then you can starve yourself, like when you're on a fast, you starve yourself, and then what? And then after that you eat double. After you have finished the fast, you eat double, you eat triple. And so therefore what? So therefore, this is not avoiding the Jagat. The Jagat cannot be avoided or voided. This is a cognitive shift to have a way over the mind, to have a say over how the mind operates. And once we understand that the mind is operating from this catch kill mentality, you are able to withdraw from that mentality itself, not the objects. We are not so worried about the objects. They are harmless, they are all Ishvara. Who cares? It doesn't matter. So the objects can be there. And so we are not interested in objects, and we have never been interested in objects. What are we interested in? The subject, which is who? You. And so you have to make the effort here. If you want the mind to, if you want that inner Kashi trip, then what do we see? We see that we visit the mind that has fallen back on itself, in the sense that it is no longer actively participating in the catch and kill mentality. And that is what, and then the very beautiful word follows, parama upashantihi sa. That peace is what? Parama upashantihi. Shama, shanti means peace. When you add upashama to it, upashanti, upasham, upa plus sham, then what happens is that it is extinguishing. Extinguishing the fires of, raga and dvesha, extinguishing the forced desires, extinguishing the full of, what's its name, pain, sorrow, all these things, the disappointment of not getting something. All that comes to rest when one is able to tackle the catch and kill mentality. And how does one tackle the catch and kill mentality? One tackles the catch and kill mentality by making sure that you see that you train the raga dveshas. You give them pacifiers, so they go to sleep, they are suspended. You defer their gratification. That is another way of dealing with the raga dveshas and making them harmless. The more you want something badly, you say, not today, tomorrow I'll get it. And when tomorrow comes, the chances are you would have half of the time forgotten what it was that you were so worried about and obsessed about in the first place. And so this is so this kind of a mind that is contented. So one develops a mind that is contented, non-demanding, appreciative, and at home with itself. In fact, that's the message of this whole, what is that called? This whole text. That if you are for the one who is at home with oneself, then what, Kashi? No Kashi. There is no reason to go to Kashi, because the mind itself is Kashi. If the mind is not Kashi, then what is it? Wishy-washy. Yeah, either it is wishy-washy, or you can convert it into Kashi. This is the whole idea. So upashama of the strong binding raga and dvesha has taken place in which kind, in which mind, which kind of a mind? That is what is the peace, parama upashanti. It's the ultimate peace, the ultimate peace of what, of visiting Kashi, and in particular visiting a place in Kashi called Manikarnika Ghat. See, I told you we are going on a nice trip to Kashi. So Manikarnika Ghat, Ghat means a little area that is built up at the banks of the river, which is here is of course the Ganga. So this Manikarnika Ghat has a very important history and is considered to be very holy. So what is it known for? The Manikarnika Ghat is known for as a cremation ground. People, it's a holy cremation ground, and people, when they say that you do the funeral rites on this ghat, definitely the person will get moksha. That is the belief. So this is one of the mahimas, kshetra mahima, I talked about yesterday, that is associated with Manikarnika Ghat. This is what is talked about. And then the other thing that is associated with Manikarnika Ghat is the this what is that, we go there, and there is a Manikarni temple, a temple dedicated to the goddess. So the goddess temple is there, and then this whole beautiful goddess temple is there, the reigning deity of Manikarnika, this whole area. And this goes back to the tale of this Lord Shiva and Shakti in the form of Dakshayani. She was a princess. This is all metaphorical. This is the Puranic story, and it's a very famous story. Everybody knows it, and even if even if people know it, it's kind of nice to hear it again from looking at it from the standpoint of the symbolism. We are not taking everything literally. So the story is very simple. Dakshayani, one of the 9 daughters or something of the princess of King Daksha, leaves everything and marries this, marries Lord Shiva, and she's thrown out of the house practically. I mean, because nobody really, she's a princess and she's supposed to not do this, and she has done it, and nobody really entertains her anymore. And then the king has a big yajna. All her sisters are invited except for her. And then she thinks, oh, father must not have had the time to invite me in person. Of course I'm invited, this is my house, how can I not go? This is my father's house. And Shiva says, let it be, don't go there, but still she goes, and she's insulted, not uninvited, she's disinvited and then insulted. And so then the story goes that out of great sorrow, she falls into the yajna pit and immolates herself. And now Shiva sees this, and in his mind's eye, because of his powers of meditation, and goes over there and rescues whatever he can. I mean, she's given up her life. He takes the body, and then goes all over India dancing, and in the mad dance of grief. And then they say that the body parts and her jewelry, 51 places were blessed by the falling of these various pieces of jewelry and body parts, and they instantly became Shakti Pithas, temples dedicated to goddesses. This is an amazing, I mean, what a lovely story. It's all, what should I say, metaphorical. It's all metaphorical. Because the princess Daksha, even though she was, what is that, she was raised in the lap of luxury, chose renunciation because she married a renunciant. She married Bhagavan. She was wedded to Bhagavan, and she was wedded to a life of renunciation, from which there is no turning back. And so, but still, she turned back in a moment of moha, in a moment of deluded, what's its name, connection, wanting to see the sisters, wanting to see the mother and the father, wanting to be part of the yajna, wanting to belong to a world that she herself had rejected and that which had also rejected her. So still she wanted to go back, and she went back. And then what? And the ahankara, the I notion, which said, I am a daughter of the king of Daksha, fell in the flames. And the I notion that said, I am being insulted, I'm not being looked after, they made me sit next to the bathroom or whatever it was, wherever the seating arrangement was not good, everything was like this. And all this, is what? The ahankara dying. The ahankara immolates itself, be out of the sheer, being, understanding the gravity of what had happened. In a way, this is what Vedanta does. There is no going back, Yeah, if you want, sign out now. That's the only possibility you can do, Yeah, you can log out now. But then there is really no going back. You have been bitten by the Vedanta bug, so to speak. There is no going back. Because you have already entered yourself. The mind has already fallen back, and itself the mind has tasted the nectar of the truth, that all that is here is myself alone. I'm one with everything. I belong everywhere. This, Dakshayani had to understand the hard way. I am everywhere. I'm Sarvaga. I'm all pervasive. And that is what is the falling of the various body parts, and the springing of various Shakti Pithas, is the testament to this being Sarvaga, being all pervasive. It's all a metaphor. It's a beautiful story if you look at it properly. Otherwise, it's a gory story. When people in Western whatever academia, I call it academia. So in Western academia, people will write, oh, woman hatred, and oh, what happened to Dakshayani? She committed suicide, and she's supposed to be a goddess. How can goddess die? They all mix up, because they're all literalists, even their own texts of their own religion. Because most of the people who write like this are non-practicing people. They're not practitioners of the tradition. Only recently, in Western, what is that, scholarship, there is a resurgence of practicing Hindus writing about, our own myths and our own ideologies. Otherwise, it was always interpreted for us by various people and various kinds of, ways, where poor things, we can't even blame them. They had no idea what to do, what to say. And from their infrastructure, they could just only see a little bit. And whatever they could see, they could interpret it, they could write about, or whatever it was. All flawed. And so if you look at this story from a Western perspective, you don't even feel like owning up this story, much less retelling it to somebody. They will say, what's wrong with your folklore? This is a terrible story. And this is a terrible story of retribution and self-hatred, because she immolates herself, and what's wrong with Shiva? Isn't he supposed to be full of self-knowledge? Why is he going mad with, grief, and why is he dancing with her body? This is all metaphoric. So the death of Dakshayani is the death of the Ahankara. That is what is being celebrated here, in a way. And then the death of the Ahankara is that, then she has understood her all pervasive-ness. And so like this, even now in India, you can visit all 51 kshetras. These are all temples of, the goddess, Shakti Pithas, the seats of where the goddess is. In the Himalaya region, there are so many now. There is one called Kangra. Kangra means the bangle. The bangle of the goddess fell there. And right above Rishikesh, in one of the low-lying hills, you can see this town called Narendra Nagar. There is one Narendra Nagar. It used to be a small, what is that, Raja's kingdom long time back. There is still a palace which has been converted into a kind of a hotel and everything. And then there is what? Kunjapuri. And I have visited this place. Kunjapuri means where the breast of the goddess fell. Kucha, breast of the goddess fell. And a lot of women who've had survivors of breast cancer go there to pay their respects and to, ask for freedom from this disease. It's beautiful. And what is the goddess? The goddess is a breast shaped depression in the ground. So beautiful. And to that they do archana, to there offer garlands and flowers. It is just amazing. What a culture. The goddess is everywhere. Bhagavan is everywhere. And so Kangra is where the bangle fell. Kunjapuri is where the breast fell. And then Kamakhya in Assam is where the yoni of the goddess fell. And then here Manikarnika is a pearl earring or a earring studded with gems. That is what has fallen at this ghat. So a very important place, a site of worship, site of worship of the goddess. And so if you go to Manikarnika Ghat, what happened to the goddess will happen to you. That is the idea. What happened to the goddess? She gave up she gave up this. What happened to the Akshayani will happen to you. She gave up, she died to the smallness of the world. So she died to the notion of separation from the world. She was dead to this limited body, mind, sense complex identification. And that is why now she can be everywhere all at once. And so this Manikarnika, where the earring which is blessed by the dropping of the earrings of the goddess, signifies a holy place for many reasons. The first reason is because it signifies the death of the ahankara. This is what Kashi symbolizes, the death of the ahankara and the extinguishing upashama, the upashamanam of the ahankara, where the ahankaras, the fires of ragadvesha fanning the ahankara, all of them are just thick as thieves, all of them are just, extinguished. So this is Manikarnika, it is the holiest of holy sites. And where is it? Right here. Right here is Manikarnika. Right here is where you can make a sankalpa, you can make a vow, a commitment to let the ahankara, die. Let the ahankara that is wedded to the smallness die. Let this wedding to the smallness be severed. And let this feeling that I am being insulted, I am being, something is wrong, something is happening to me. Nobody loves me, and it's, nobody is paying attention to me. What is wrong with me? All that, please, let it die right now. And when you let that die, what happens? The right here is Manikarnika. Manikarnika is also symbolic of a place of Shravanam. Why? Because it is to do with the ear. Earring, ear, Shravanam. So therefore what is left, one rises from like a phoenix, from the ashes of this ahankara, wedded to the body, wedded to the limited identification. I am as good as this body, I am just this mind, I am an idiot, all these things. It rises from the ashes and the dust of this identification, minted into a shishya, looking for the teacher, wanting to do Shravanam. What a vision! And even what a lovely story! This is how the story should be taken. So that's why Manikarnika is called Tirthavarya, the holiest of the holy. Varenya, that which is worthy of being chosen. This is what Tirthavarya means. One meaning that it is worthy. It's Varenya. And it is worthy of being chosen, it's worthy of being, it's a choice, tirtha. Also, Varya means exalted, the holiest of the holy, tirtha sites. And you can visit right here in the mind. The mind, devoid of any kind of a, what's the word for it, penchant, for smallness, misidentification with the smallness, is ready to discover itself as Manikarnika. It is ready to discover a contentment. It is ready to discover its glory. It's ready to discover the wonders of what it really is. It's ready to discover the Upanishads. And like the goddess, like Dakshayani, it is ready to understand its, that it is Sarvaga. It is all pervasive. It is not just what we are talking about, the Atma, which is likened to the city of Kashi. The self-shining eye is not confined to one body. It's not much less confined to one mind or senses. And so when the wrong identifications go, the person declares here, Mano Nivrittihi, the retreat of the mind from feeling this, this restless, predatory, catch and kill mentality, when the raga dveshas have been told a lullaby and they are, they are all fast asleep. The contented mind, like when you just wake up after a wonderful sleep and you still don't know what else needs to be done, and maybe it's the weekend and nothing needs to be done, and then you just wake up, nicely, no nightmares, nothing. Suptavastha was wonderful, swapnavastha, dream avastha was wonderful, and then the waking is also a gentle waking without any alarm, nothing. When you wake up, how the mind is, that kind of a mind is the Manikarnika, an important site of pilgrimage even within Kashi. Kashi itself is a place of pilgrimage, but the holiest of ghats in Kashi is called Manikarnika. And then what, so this is the this is how to make a Kashi of the mind. Step back. Usually what we do, we just when we have a text that we study, usually, I will explain this, and then at the last class we will have, what should I say, by popular demand, we will have what is that, practical tips, within quotes, how to bring it into one's life in the everyday. But this time we'll do it as we go along, so as we go along, we'll see how to enjoy this mind that is bereft of any kind of a, what's the word for it, wrong identification. So this is what it takes. It takes working with the raga dveshas, with the strong preferences, strong prejudices. It takes working with them and practicing deferment. Deferment. You just say, okay, not now, maybe later. Don't say no, because then the raga dveshas will get stronger. Say, maybe later. Okay, I'll wait for 5 minutes, says the ahankara. Let it wait for 5 minutes, just like a child. You keep it occupied. Maybe the 5 turns into 10, and 10 turns into 20, because the ahankara really did not want whatever it was wanting. The raga dveshas were just taking over the mind. The mind wasn't wanting that at all. The mind was really wanting to fall back on the glory of itself, without any crutches, without any props. This is what the main thing is. Practice, deferred gratification. This is one way of making, making the mind instantly into Manikarnika Ghat and the peace that it promises. And soon one becomes what? One becomes a adept. One becomes an adept at this deferred gratification. And then next line, Jnana Pravaha Vimala Adi Ganga. Adi Ganga is that, is the Ganga without the beginningless Ganga. Because we don't know where Ganga came from. That's why we have a saying, Rishi Moolam, Nadi Moolam, Na vicharayet. Please don't inquire into the roots of the rishi. See, we all trace our genealogy to a rishi, which is in the form of a gotra. you know then we can say, okay, Kashyapa gotra, or Bharadwaja gotra, something like that we can say. But then where did Bharadwaja come from, and Kashyapa, where he came from, or whoever it is, some rishi, where they came from, if we start inquiring, then the answer will not be very flattering. Monkey, perhaps, whatever it is, you don't know where they came from. So then you don't ask that question, you stop at the exalted place. That's all it is. So same thing with Nadi. Where did Ganga came from? Gangotri, you go to Gangotri, and then they'll say, no, 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 you go somewhere else. Then you go to Uttarakashi, then you go somewhere else, and then it is still elusive. Nobody knows. So that's why it is called Adi Ganga, she who is causeless, and she who is flowing from, flowing just like what? The Atman is an uninterrupted flow. Flow of what? Knowledge. Knowledge. Uninterrupted flow of knowledge. This is what Ganga is. Ganga is symbolic of knowledge, and here the mind a mind that has fallen back on itself, experiences or understands that it is nothing but the flow of unending, beginningless knowledge. This is something very interesting. What is this beginningless and endless knowledge? I don't even know how to spell knowledge, barely. And then you're telling me I am beginningless knowledge and endless knowledge. What is this? It is the witness, it's the witness of the mind that is what is being referred to. It is the swarupa of the witness of the mind. It is not the mind per se. So it's the swarupa, it's the nature of the witness of the mind. Because if the mind is, the mind is here, the mind is doing its own thing, like a monkey, it's called, markata buddhi. It is jumping up, jumping down, going all over the place, wanting this, wanting that, catching this, killing that. This is what the mind is doing. And then what? So the the witness of the mind, the one who says, I see that today the mind is very restless. That is what is being talked about here. Because everything becomes evident to this witness. And the witness is, not evident to any other source of knowing. The witness is what we call self-evident. The self-evident I, unto which everything becomes known, is the witness of the whole universe. And then what? And everything else, depends on me to be named, to be caught, to be conquered, to be objectified. But I am, I don't need to be objectified, because I know myself. I know of my existence without the need to objectify it as an object. Thank God. Based on this self-evident self alone, the entire Vedanta Shastra unfolds. If the self were not self-evident, then there would be no Shastra at all. No need to study Vedanta. This is the beauty of it. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. And so therefore, this is something to really grasp and understand. And this is, this is another way to conquer or to manage the mad mind. Jump one step back, sit back and watch the mind. When you watch the mind, the identification with the mind is severed, at least for the time being. For the time being. In your mind, that identification, I am the mind, is severed, is suspended, and you are able to just watch the mind. And when you watch the mind, you also understand that no one can or is watching the watcher. I am the watcher, because if you had a watcher, then what will happen? That watcher will become Kashi, Antaratma, and then if that one also had another watcher, then we would get into an infinite regression. But that's not the case. The buck stops here with the witness. So this witness is nothing but jnana pravaha. And then of course it is translated in many places as the flow of pure consciousness. You know, this is a, what should I say, redundancy writ large all over this expression, because pure consciousness, it's like saying mental knowledge. I mean, where else is knowledge takes place other than in the mind? As Pujya Swamiji would say, there is no dental knowledge. Of course, it is only mental knowledge. you know. So, so pure consciousness. That means what? As soon as I use the word pure awareness, pure consciousness, immediately there is an internal comparison. And what is the comparison? There must be some impure consciousness. And now there is a pure consciousness. You know what they mean here, Vimala, the Ganga, like the beautiful comparison here. Ganga is flowing without a beginning, without an end. She keeps flowing all the time, and the mind, sorry, the witness, awareness, the self-awareness also flows like the Ganga. One comparison. And the second comparison is also beautiful. So there's a corollary, a related comparison, is that the Ganga is Vimala, you know, from whom all dirt has departed, Vimala. That is this Ganga is Vimala, free of all mala. Mala means any kind of dirt, impurities. And so too, this awareness, and that's why I don't like to translate it as pure awareness. There's nothing impure about awareness to begin with. So we are talking of awareness that is not for the time being associated with or identified with anything. To the recognition of this awareness as unafflicted, not affected by sorrow, pain, guilt, hurt, or anything that you see, possession, belonging, non-belonging, separation, anxiety, nothing. That is what one is. So one is in the world, surrounded by all kinds of objects, but one has fallen back onto the subject. This is what is, this is what is the flow of the endless, beginningless flow of self-aware self. The I am, iti bhati, it shines as I am, I am, I am. And even though I am is recognized later as a thought, and it's called I thought, but really, even before the thought, I am exists. And this is what Descartes found out the hard way. After putting Descartes in front of day horse, he found it the hard way. First he said, I think, therefore I am. And then he had to correct himself later on. Because if you stop thinking, you don't cease to exist. This is the beauty of this. You don't cease to exist if you stop thinking. If you say, I don't think so, would you like some coffee? No, I don't think so. Did the person stop existing when the person said, I don't think so? No. That means what? That you are there. Thoughts come and go. You are the witness of the thoughts. You are very much there. And you are there whether there are thoughts or not, you are there. And this is what it is. It is, you are not, held hijacked, hostage by the thoughts. You are not held hostage by your raga, dvesha. That is Vimala. That is what is called a pure, that is what is frequently translated as pure, what is that, consciousness, unassociated with anything. You don't have to define that. Because the consciousness is already pure and it's already unassociated with everything. It's not unassociated with anything, it's not associated with anything. It is asango hi ayam purushaha. Asangaha means unconnected to anything is this I, which is the cause, which is equated in the Upanishads to the cause of the universe, Ishvara. And so this is where one is going. And so here the first order of business to converting the antahkarana, the inner instrument, mind, chittam, buddhi, etc., into an internal kashi. The first order is what? The first order is to understand that I am unassociated with any of these things. I'm naturally free. Ragas don't get me. Dveshas don't sully me. Papa, Punya are not in any way affecting me. They are not defining who I am. I am not defined by my omissions, by my hurts, by my commissions, by my history, by my wrongdoings, by my desires, by my hatred, by my prejudices, by my preferences. I'm not defined by any of those. Those are all wrong identifications. Simply by watching, you come, the first step is to enter into the Vedanta Shastra, is what is called Tvam Pada Vichara, an inquiry into the nature of this I. And the first thing you do to conduct this inquiry is to catch hold of the witness. Catch hold of the witness. Don't identify with the mind. Catch hold of the witness. Identify with the watcher of the mind rather than the mind itself. Very, very nice, very important. So, Jnana Pravaha Vimala Adi Ganga. Adi Ganga means, this Ganga that is causeless. A free flowing I am, I am, I am. And this I am is all knowledge, because when you are saying I am, as I have pointed out many times before, when you are saying I am, what are you saying? I know I exist. I know I am. I know I am. And it's an I know that never turns into ignorance. That's why it is all knowledge. I know I am never becomes I don't know. Even if you say I don't know I am, you're advertising, you're broadcasting your existence. But what if I say I don't know Chinese? You know that you don't know Chinese. Simple. You know you don't know Greek. Simple. That's all there is. And so therefore what? Therefore this whole thing is so beautiful here. Sitting right here, wherever you are. We are not going on a manorajya, kind of an imaginary trip. This is actually a real trip, into what? Into the truth of the self. A journey to the truth of the self. A journey to the holiest of sights, which is not Kashi anymore, which is that Antaratma, which is the holiest of the sights, of all sights. Why? Because it is you. It is sought after by everyone. Everyone wants to go to this I. Everyone wants the Antaratma that is symbolized by Kashi, with a little play of words here. And what is the word play? The pun is in the shining one. The shining one. And then, so Vimala Adi Ganga, and then so I am this Ganga, which is Adi Ganga, which is the causeless, endless flow of I am knowledge, uninterrupted by thoughts. Because when you have a thought, people make this mistake all the time. Like, people think that if this flow should be uninterrupted, I am a witness, I am a witness. And then what? Suddenly I saw something else, and there was a bhanga of this samadhi, of this watching. There was a bhanga, means a kind of a rupture, a disruption came. And then what? Because I saw something else, I saw a dog. And then what? Then people think that the dog has replaced the witness, and then now, the witness is gone. Dog has come. Dog has to be chased away for the witness to come back. That is not the case. Thank God. Thank God that is not the case. Because the witness, the dog is not, sitting on top of the witness. Why? The dog is an extension, is a projection of this witness. And that which is projected does not have the power of the same power of reality, say, does not belong to the same order of reality as the projector. ah, it's like your shadow and you. You and your shadow went for a walk, and then you were hand in hand, and then when you came back the shadow was missing and you started to cry. That's not how it is. You barely notice your shadow because you are casting the shadow. Similarly here, whatever quote unquote replaces this witness awareness, this jnana pravaha, which that I am free of papa punya, but then a pang of regret comes. Even as you're saying I'm free of papa punya, I'm free of wrongdoing, a pang of regret comes. Why did I do that? I could have let that go. A pang of guilt comes. Oh, I just am deplorable. How could I do this? But that does not sully this witness awareness. It cannot. It is just a projection, like Gandharva Nagari, like the what is that, the town in the sky, a town in the what is that called, cloud land, a land made up of clouds, a city of clouds, each thing having its own shape and size. There are people, there are figures, there are chairs, tables, palace, houses, animals. There is even a sun and a moon shaped cloud. All these things are there. But if the what is that, if a cloud cloud figure falls somewhere and drops or morphs into something else, you don't grieve for the missing cloud figure. Similarly, if a pang of regret comes, you watch it, it comes, it goes, without affecting you. You keep watching it. This is the actual practical conduction of the Tvam Pada Vichara. This is wonderful. Very practical. And then you'll never ask the question how to experience Brahman. This is how to experience. If you really want an experiential, what is that? The quote unquote experiential trip, because to understand that you are experiencing yourself all the time is itself a great blessing. That is itself where you need to go, rather than be chased by the mind into following its diktats, like, oh, sit and cry over this and do that, etc. Jnana pravaha vimala adi ganga. And then what? Sa kashikaham nijabodha rupa, we will see after a short break. Just 5 minutes to get up, stretch, etc. And then, we will come back. We will reconvene. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.